Friends, this is Pastor James from Crossroads. Today's subject, is my kid gonna be okay? This is Pastors on Pop. Hey, it's great to be with you today for Pastors on Pop. I'm here today with my co-host.
I'm Denise McAnally, and I work in children's here.
All right, so we are glad to be here today. Hey, so Denise, our conversation today is ultimately about, is my kid gonna be okay? And Crossroads is in this series right now where we're looking at parenting, and on Pastors on Pop, we're looking at pop culture. And I don't know your observations, but man, it seems like every day there's a new influencer, there's a new TikTok video, there's something going on that I'm usually late to the party, but it affects the world that my kids are living in. What's your experience on that?
Absolutely. Well, it's funny that you said that you're late to the party. I too am late to the party. And I have been told that I should be watching TikTok and because I'm working with young kids and getting in there and watching. I can't do it. I try. It is just ridiculousness. But knowing that our kids are so involved in that and that's really influencing their life, it is important that we know things about it. I don't know if I'd say spend a lot of time on it. But find out the big things, yeah. and I'm really kind of freaked out about, you know, the influence of Cardi B or a Billie Eilish video or like a milk crate challenge and seeing my kid in the backyard stacking milk crates to film a video just to post. I mean, so there's all these things that are going on around us, and yet we're trying to parent and raise responsible young people in the midst of it, right? Absolutely. And yeah, and it is, and you know, I have my own experience with that. My son actually jumped off our balcony onto our couch. Fast forward, we have a new couch, and he's fine. But yeah, trying to do a TikTok video, and frankly, the video wasn't very cool. So it was a fail all around, but at least he's safe. Yeah, it was a lose-lose. And yeah, so I just feel like it seems really scary now in the moment, but I think parents have always been dealing with things like this.
Yeah. So you and I are here today because, like, in Crossroads culture, we really are the standout parents. I mean, we're kind of the we're just heralded as so great at that, right?
Right. Yeah, we're the go-to people. People look at our kids and they say, "Wow, I want my kids to be just like theirs." No, not at all. We've just done it, and it's comforting to know that other people have done it and experienced similar things, and really things are changing and it seems more scary now, but 40-50 years ago people were listening to records backwards to listen to Satan talk to them or something. I mean, it's always been scary, and
or
in the
John
moment
Lennon.
or John Lennon, maybe. Yeah, it's always been scary. It's always been scary. We just have to. So you can't hide from the culture. You can't hide with what's going on. You just have to be ready and have some good influences at home.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where all of us kind of need to land.
Yeah.
Have your morals, your values and stuff at home, and make sure that they're getting to your kids, and that your kids have a great foundation as they move forward.
So you and I have a student in high school and kids in college. So
yes.
we've navigated, for better or for worse, the toddler and preschool and elementary age. So I guess the first question that I'd love to hear your heart and kind of talk about is, when did you realize the burden or the significance of the role of parents, specifically in how it engaged your kids? Like when did that hit you?
Well, coming home from the hospital, right? Like, you have this baby and they put you in a car and say, bye, good luck.
Yeah.
And they've done it to billions of people.
It's kind of cruel.
It's so strange. And I know I've heard so many people talk about it. Everybody's like, you have everything prepared. Yeah. The room is beautiful. The crib is immaculate. Everything. You've got all the clothes and stuff. And then you take this person home and they don't do anything you want them to do. They cry and whatever. And then, outside influences start coming in. I remember, I kind of rocked being a toddler mom. I was really hands-on in there. I stink now. Like, I got worse, progressively worse. I don't know what I'm doing now. But I was in it, right? And I was reading all this stuff. But things come up, and you realize that there are outside influences that come in. I remember one time we were at a Rockies game, and we were very careful. Anybody who knows me from when I was younger knows that I have a cuss mouth. I don't always use the best words, but growing up with my kids when they were little, never, seriously, God helped me to just be never going to say any bad words. And then I took pride in that because that was a hard challenge for me at first. And they didn't know anything. We couldn't even say hate in our house. These were just the rules. And one time we were at a Rockies game and the people in front of us were cussing. And we just didn't really think anything about it until I looked at my 2 older kids, which were probably in 3rd and 1st grade. And they were like giggling and snickering. And I thought, how do they even know these are bad words? And then my youngest was still in preschool and she was just oblivious to it. And just... that's when I really realized that I don't have control over everything they're going to hear and do, even though I've tried so hard to make this bubble and keep them, all of our outside activities were really at the church and focused here. That's when I really realized, like, this isn't all on me. Like, there's a world out there they're going to be in.
Yeah. And for me, I remember our daughter Emma was in kindergarten, and at the time for a kindergartner, I mean, our big thing was like, is Ariel, like who's better, Ariel or Belle, right? And she came home the first week of kindergarten and, we were having Oreo cookies and talking about her day. And she said, so did you know some boys marry boys and some girls marry girls? But it was shocking that how did that subject come up during kindergarten. where does it make sense? Like,
absolutely.
Like I thought they learned how to hold a pencil and take a nap and eat goldfish crackers, right? Like I thought that was the scope, and yet that came up in the course of her day. And for me, it was shocking because like, oh my gosh, it's just like I wasn't prepared for it.
Well, yeah, you're still thinking, how does a mermaid marry a real man, right? With 2 legs. You're still on that, and then we're talking. Yeah, I'm with you. That and you can't hide from that. You have to be ready. You have to be prepared to talk about those things. Yeah. And that's how you can't escape culture. You can't escape it and shelter your kids because someday they're going to have to leave the house.
Yeah. So looking back on like that early stage of like preschool and early elementary, what were some of the big things that you and your husband had to navigate in parenting your kids through their emerging culture, their emerging world?
Right. We just had to, for sure, have a strong foundation and, make sure that our kids knew the truth. And it was really hard going from only being around more church people and then having them go out into school and hearing the different influences and hearing the different people and how people live differently. But it's, like I said, it's going to happen. So we would just, when they'd come home with questions like that, we'd say, you know what? We are different. We're set aside. Maybe I know other parents are so much better about opening up the Bible and turning right to Scripture. We just kind of went off the cuff, and we're just talking about, from the heart. And we're different, and this is what we think in this family, and this is how we behave in this family. And, other people do different things than us.
Yeah. Well, and gosh, and that makes me think of like, because I used to be a youth pastor, so I was giving parents advice and all this stuff, and you in kids ministry, right?
Oh, right.
And it's like, and I vividly remember at a recess for my son, and his soccer team won, and he was kind of bragging, and a couple kids like knocked him down and kicked him in the head, like repeat, and it was like a legit bullying situation, but it was interesting for me, like with all my Christian biblical knowledge, like I had to navigate how to instruct him.
Absolutely. Turn the other cheek or kick him back, right?
Totally.
Absolutely.
And for me, like the idea of you need to defend yourself and you need to stand up, and sometimes you need to strike back with I mean, kind of like male answers to things.
Right.
And I had to navigate like, oh my gosh, like what does the Bible teach, and how do I equip my son in a super complicated situation to go in there without me and navigate this? And it was just like, gosh, it'd be like, I'd rather send him with a 2x4.
Absolutely.
Than a Bible verse. Does it make sense?
Which is funny because I lean more towards that as well. But I do remember in soccer yelling at my oldest, Emma, saying, nope. And she was like saying mean things to the other kids, or they'd get really aggressive. She did have one coach that was all for pushing, shoving, like that was encouraged. And I remember being in the stand saying, don't forget you're a Christian first. You're a Christian first. The parents were laughing around me, but she was like, yeah, I got it.
Hey, my name is Matt Manning, and I am the senior pastor here at Crossroads Church, and hopefully you are loving what you're listening to today. If you are, we would love for you to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You can leave us a comment. We read all of them. And if you like it, we'd love for you to share this with a friend. Every week we get together as a church to celebrate what God is is doing, and you can join us every Sunday at 8:30, 10, and 11:30 online or in-house. Let's get back to the podcast.
I got it.
So did you have any like tricks to kind of pull what was really going on in your kid's heart or in their life? Like mine was, I'm kind of answering the question first, but mine was having cookies after school.
Right.
And just like, so tell me about your day. So who did you eat lunch with? So what did you talk about in your class? And it was always like this super casual, superficial,
yeah.
but I was totally mining.
Oh yeah. And we would do that at bedtime. We would do that at bedtime and talk about your day, and then during prayers and talk about what happened. But that was a little bit more obvious. So what I got really good at, this is a good tip for everybody. Do carpool. If you have the ability to do carpool with your kids, do the carpool. Be the carpool person. Take other kids that are in the neighborhood, because your kids might be a little bit sheltered and quiet around you and worried about what they're going to say, but the other kids are going to let you know exactly what's going on.
That's a
And
great idea.
I found out so much information from carpool.
That's dirty. That's fantastic.
Well, and plus you want to, I mean, you don't want you want your kids to have a ride to and from school. You want to know who they're with. And I was available, so plethora of information at carpool.
Man, that's gold. The other biggie for me in elementary, I was the watchdog dad, so I would go on my day off and actually kind of be casual security at the school.
Oh yeah.
And what was super helpful for me was I noticed in conversation with my kids, certain names would keep coming up, like Julio or Susie, but I didn't know who they were. And for me to go and not to pull them aside and be like, hey, get your act together, right? But like for me, like, oh, that's Julio. Yeah. That's okay. And just seeing them, one, it helped me not see them as realize it's an 8-year-old kid, like relax.
Right.
And even seeing who they are and maybe some of their background, it stirred up empathy in me.
Absolutely, 100%.
Which is always kind of a struggle, because it's like when it's your kid, it's like anything that's potentially hindering them, like you want to build a firewall and protect them. So for me to realize, Susie's probably a really good girl. I don't know her story.
Right.
But
how you're looking at Susie in the back, like this crazy strung out, like 16-year-old who's really 5, right? In the 5-year-old's body. And then you go and see Susie, you're like, wait, just a kid.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
That's another thing too. If you can take the time, even if you have to do it on your lunch break, just an hour a week to go volunteer in elementary school, just to volunteer in the classrooms. They need like file folder helpers. You don't even have to work directly with the kids. I like to just be in the room. I know that I had a very flexible job. I was able to do this, but maybe if you could set aside an hour a week just to be in the classroom, you know who's in there. And then you can also see how your kid reacts to the teacher and how, you're getting the real information there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I had kids just read to me. I mean, like they needed adults for kids to read. And like I heard some great stories, like about like a grasshopper and a frog. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known that story had you not given that hour a week.
So as we experienced our kids going from that stage to like middle school, high school, it wasn't as much fun.
Well, and the schools don't want you in the that was the harshest part. Like all of a sudden you went from, I was there one day a week helping out, and then you're in middle school. They go to different classes. They don't ask you to help unless it's like maybe a field trip or something like that. You can go on and then you can get some information. But really, the school's kind of closed off a little bit to there, so you have to really work that carpool. Carpool really comes in. That's how you could get more of your information. That was hard. And middle school, you're combining a whole bunch of other schools, so you're learning more kids' names and hearing about more,
Yeah, and for me, I think what I finally realized is in middle school and high school, there are going to be other influences in my kid's life,
100%.
Whether I like it or not. So for me to encourage them toward the voices of people that I trusted, or even participate differently, so like sports teams, like my son has always played baseball, and some of our coaches were really encouraging, and like I'd listen to like them talk to kids, and I was like, man, that was rad. It was like,
Yeah.
I love that. And other coaches was like, throw strikes, damn it,
Yeah,
and it was just
absolutely.
like, well, that's probably not gonna. Oh, that's the problem. He
Yes.
doesn't know that he's supposed to hit the glove, right? It was
You're
just
right.
but for me to observe this and realize that man is in his life,
Absolutely.
and that personality is going to be in his life for the rest of his life.
Right.
Like they have
You
to learn
can't
how
remove them out
Totally.
because they're
Yeah.
going to be. It's better that they're learning about this kind of personality when you're there to witness it and still steer them towards what is right. Hey, the coach is great. Look, he's given up all of his time and he's helping you, but sometimes he says stuff not so nice, and there's going to be people out there that do the same thing. And
Exactly.
so you're helping them navigate while still having respect for this man who's giving up, who is doing something good, but you're letting him know that maybe he's not always saying what's right.
And part of what I've realized too, especially as a youth pastor, is students and all of us do it, but young people, they're processing information all the time, and they need a safe place just to throw up.
Absolutely.
And to get the thoughts out there. So and it was super easy as a youth pastor, and it was honoring because these students would say, I love my parents, but they're freaking out about this movie that I want to see, and all he's doing is processing. Like there's things that are going on, and he's not even criticizing it. He just wants to kind of get it out and to have a safe person that will just listen to them. So, and it's super hard as a parent because in middle school and high school, like you lose equity and IQ points instantly. Like
it's amazing.
They don't even
how
think
dumb
of you.
get. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
how out of touch you are all of a sudden just because they're getting older. You don't know anything. Yes, I remember that. That was fun.
Oh my gosh.
I'm still kind of there.
But the ability to encourage them towards someone who isn't you, who has some of the foundational values and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said it, youth pastors, amazing. Our kids went to Awana, which is now Peak here at Crossroads, and they had all those people to talk to. And there's a lot of people that are, they have volunteers who were older. Maybe the volunteers were in high school or college, early college. And those are the cool kids, right? Those are the ones that they're listening to. So they would have this, it's just, you can kind of influence your kids to go to the influencer that you would like to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have just a few minutes left.
Okay.
So let's get practical with like things that we picked up in the trenches. So advice or encouragements for parents who are walking through this and desperately want their kid to turn out okay, which I think is probably most parents. I know for both of us, number one is community.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't you elaborate on that?
When they were younger, we used to have the play groups, and you'd know who to be around. You'd have lots of that. When you're older, it's more like your community group, and you bring your kids in. Hopefully, they have people who are that are the same age. You're with people who have kids that are the same age, and you can certainly be around that. Then you can discuss what's going on with your kiddos and know that other people are doing it too.
Yeah.
That it's happening to them as well. Your neighborhood. Being around your neighbors, huge, because that's who's going to be around your kids too. So make friends with the parents in your neighborhood, and that's your community. And you don't always get the June Cleaver parents that live by you, but maybe you could be a good influence in their life too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying we're going out into the world and we're changing everybody, but if they see that something's a little bit different in the McAnally family, maybe they want to say, well, how's that? How's that different? And influence in that way. Yeah.
Well, and I absolutely agree. I think having people that are going through the same stuff who can kind of validate that what you're going through is normal, or if there's an area that maybe you're just like driving this point into the ground, like somebody that loves you enough to say, hey, you might just let that go.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Choose your battles.
Yeah.
That's what we hear, right?
Exactly.
Choose your battles.
Yeah. And for me, it's always good to have that one friend whose kid is a little worse.
Oh, yeah. Because you're always gonna have somebody better than your kid and worse than your kid. So you kind of want to, yeah, that would be my advice. Find the people with the worst kids so you feel better about yourself. No, I'm kidding. I say that in jest, but it is. It's helpful, and it is good to have that soundboard and speak to people who have been through it or are going through it. So, because you can feel like you're all alone, especially with social media, right? You're watching Facebook and everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, because they're not posting the yucky stuff.
Exactly.
They're never posting. So it is good to have people to talk to and know. It's just hard. It's always been hard.
And the other thing for community for me is the ability for people to point you in the direction of truth. So like, and I think in like for us in a church setting, a lot of people think of go talk to a pastor. Well, pastors are great, and they pastors are great. As I'm a pastor,
pastors are great.
I know,
Some pastors are great.
But really, anybody who knows you and loves you can probably give you a breadcrumb towards something that's going to be helpful. So like if your kid's dealing with poor grades and you think there might be some ADHD or there might be something going on there, well, a pastor might not be who you need to talk to. Just a friend who might say, you know what, my oldest went through that same thing. We talked to this guy, or we found this website, or gosh, there's a TED Talk that I watched that totally, right? So,
Right.
I mean, all truth is God's truth. And I think the ability in a community for us to not just try to parent in isolation, but parent with other people, so we can share nuggets of gold with each other.
Oh yeah,
And
but you can find such good community groups here at the church too. Like if you volunteer in youth group, then you have that fellowship
Yeah.
with the parents that are there,
Yeah.
right? So that's helpful. I mean, I found a lot of friends here that whose kids have been going through the same thing, or they know somebody, right?
Yeah.
We've got all these connectors. I know a person. I know a guy, and yeah.
And one of my favorite things about community is when other people invest in your kid. I mean, gosh, it fills me with such joy. Like, especially coaching baseball for years, and I mean, I still remember one time my son was out there pitching, and he was having trouble hitting the strike zone, or the umpire's strike zone was too tight. And between every pitch, I saw him mouthing like the F word, right? Like everybody saw it, right? And he was frustrated, and he's probably 10 years old.
Yeah.
And he's out there, and he's getting really frustrated. And I'm one of the coaches, and I'm just waiting to get out of the inning so I can go walk him up the sideline because it was embarrassing, and I was doing else. And it was so great as he walked off the mound. One of the other coaches was like, "James, I got this."
Oh, so helpful.
Oh my, because
So you could,
because I would have probably damaged the relationship.
Well, and you would make it more personal, right? Because he's
Totally.
this person who looks like you and came from your
I can't
family.
get away from it.
You can't. He's going to go home with you. So this was so good. Yeah, that's nice when you have somebody who can step in and do that. Or you just make up what he's saying. You can say he's saying something else. Look how he keeps saying, "Oh, this is fun."
Yeah, watermelon.
Fun.
That ain't watermelon. Exactly. Well, this has been great. Hey, and for all of our friends out there listening, we really would encourage you to lean into the opportunity to parent in community, to not do it in isolation, but to pool it with others. It's a heck of a lot more fun, and there's wisdom and there's strength in unity. I think one of your favorite people said it takes a village, right?
It takes a village. One of my favorite. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
a good village.
It takes a good village. That's legit.
I'm changing it. Do you think that's pleasury? I don't know.
You can do whatever you
Can I
want.
do
This is
that?
our podcast.
Okay.
All right, friends, thanks for being with us today. Denise, you're amazing. And good for you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll see you later.
Thanks so much.